Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today we're taking a look at a new figure from Diamond Select as part of their Marvel Select series of action figures. And for this one, we're going back to the X-Mansion because today we're taking a look at the Marvel Select Iceman figure. I don't know what that weird X hand gesture was. I thought it was being cool. I don't think it worked, but I'm gonna leave it in. It's fine. Diamond Select has done plenty of X-Men figures across their Marvel Select line. Even as far back as a few years ago, they were doing some of the more Jim Lee inspired outfits. But prior to that, they were doing some outfits that you could say were a little bit more of like the Dave Cockrum era, or even a little bit like the pre-X Factor era. I might be getting my periods of X-Men mixed up a little bit, but it essentially was, let's say, like that time period around like when the Phoenix happened, or post-Phoenix as well. And we got Marvel Girl, we got Cyclops, but we didn't really get too many other folks from that period specifically beyond that. Although there was a Beast figure, there was a Psylocke and a Rogue later on, but again, those were like Jim Lee style versions of these characters and not from that same era. So now Diamond Select is going back to that period because we're continuing to get some of the original X-Men characters here, and this version of Bobby Drake I think is going to be a real standout in your collection. Now before I take it out of the box, I want to just talk about it real quickly because this is just your classic style Marvel Select packaging. It's enormous. I say that all the time about these figures, but it's true. Look at the size of this packaging. This is huge. But the upside of that enormous packaging is that it lets you see everything this figure comes with, and I think that's where this is going to really stand out because this has a ton of accessories. Very recently on this channel, I reviewed the Diamond Select Blade action figure, and I said like that was one of the best figures of the year and a sleeper figure because it had so many amazing accessories and they all fit onto the figure. It was just bar none one of the top things that they've done really Diamond this year. And while I don't think that this Iceman is going to rival the Blade one-to-one, I think this is going to get pretty close to being just as good as that figure, and that's saying a lot. The back of the packaging has some shots of the toy itself, and you can see a preview of both of its head sculpts in action, as well as a pretty nice bio about the team member. But most importantly, it lets us know that this was designed by Eamon O'Donoghue and sculpted by May Tamatarana. So I'm coming into this video with some pretty high hopes for this Iceman, and I'm hoping that this Omega level mutant can deliver an Omega level figure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this Iceman out of the box and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Bobby Drake out of the packaging right now. Here's Iceman in all of his frozen glory. Let's get a good long look at this here. So it's a pretty nice Iceman figure, I gotta tell you. It's not quite cooler than ice, but we'll make some puns as we go along. I'm gonna try and see right now if I could do a little rotation and give you guys a little bit more of a look at this toy. But I will admit that for whatever reason, his ankles are a little loose out of the packaging. And so he's been having some trouble standing in place and not flopping over, so I'm hoping he can survive this rotation. That's just going to be a point for anybody that user mileage may vary with any of these toys. So whereas my joints might be loose in some areas, they might be stiff with yours. It always depends toy to toy, person to person. And so for the most part, I would say all the joints are fairly decent in here. Just the ankles were causing me some problems, and that's something you can't fix with a little bit of museum wax. Or likewise, if you had a base, it would definitely help a little bit. But just him right now on his own, this feels like a little bit of a risky venture, but surprisingly, he's holding up pretty good here. So I guess whatever I did to keep him standing is working out pretty nicely. So let's spend some time talking about some of the finer details of this figure, including the face here. And as we go through this, we're also going to bring in some accessories into this, because I think that's kind of an important part of this figure story here. And it's worth mentioning that this Iceman comes with a second head, so you can see the other alternative head right here that he comes packaged with. But the head that's on him right now, this is the head with some ice hair, so you can be like the snow miser, I guess you want to call him that. This is how he's looking with his hair head on, and it looks very nice. This figure has this really great shade of blue. It kind of transitions from this really icy blue to a sort of whiter color plastic here. I don't think there's really much paint actually involved. I think it's all just purely in the plastic here, but it looks really great on his head, and it gets you some really nice details here. And I gotta say too, without the addition of paint, you get to see the figure really the way it was meant to be seen, the way it's just purely sculpted. So I feel like you get a lot more detail out of it this way than you would otherwise. And it's absolutely worth it. There's some great detail here. You guys can see in the hair too. I like what they've done with that. Let's see if I can hold them up there, you can get a better view of that. Really nice detail on the hair all around. It just looks really cool. It definitely has an Iceman feel to it. And I'm going to do a head swap actually right now just to show you the alternate head, which I feel like is a little bit more of like the classic Iceman look in some ways. But let's also see how easy this gets on and off. And I feel like it should be pretty easy. Yeah, okay, I think it's actually in there right now. So it actually went on there very smoothly, very easily, without really much of a fight. I was actually expecting there to be more of a fight to get it on, but there it is. So that's him now without his hair on his head. Slightly different head sculpt, but still pretty similar. I don't know which one I like more, to be honest. It kind of depends on which version of Iceman you want. I do like it a lot with this. I kind of think I like him with hair better. But that's just my personal preference. If you want like the more classical Iceman look, you're going to definitely want this. I just worry to me that it's almost like, a translucent Silver Surfer now, which is what I don't want. But this looks really nice. It's a really good head sculpt. And no matter how you choose to go, whether it's bald or with hair, you're not going to be disappointed here. Now, as far as the rest of the body, it's also pretty darn nice. I believe this is an all-new mold, and we'll test that a little bit later on here. But all-new mold, very nice looking, rather slender, slim version of Iceman, but solid all around. And he's got pretty solid articulation here. I think it was according to the back of the box, he has like 15 or 16 points of articulation. That's fairly common for a Diamond Select, Marvel Select figure here. So you guys already saw the ball-jointed head, which is on him. You can see that is secured and in place. We have ball-jointed shoulders as well on both sides here. Let's see, there is a bicep swivel. We have some bicep swivel action. We have a single joint elbow, and it's kind of like similar to a basic articulation on like a WWE basic figure from Mattel, if you don't want to talk about there, which is a sort of like hinge that still gives you a lot of mobility. And it kind of hides all the joints a little bit, so that's pretty nice looking. And likewise, the wrists have some nice articulation too. They can bend and flex, and they do come out because we're going to need that later on. Now, Iceman, like all Marvel Select figures, does not have a waist joint where the belt is covering it, but what he does have is this chest that can move around, and that kind of gets you that similar idea. We also have, as far as the legs go, very good articulation in there. We also can rotate the thighs, and again, single joint for the knee, but it gets the job done, and likewise similar in the ankles. So you got pretty much the exact same articulation you'd expect with any other figure from Marvel Select in this series, and that's fine. Matches up just fine the way that he should look with everybody else in it. Now, I do want to address one quick point here, and that's that he is in the 7-inch scale. So if you have Marvel Legends, he's not going to really fit in with that. He's going to be about an inch-ish taller than they are. So not really worth having if you're a Marvel Legends strictly collector, but if you're doing Marvel Select, or if maybe you're doing other things in this scale, or you just don't care that much about scale, you'll be fine. I just do want to address that early on here. Now let's start talking some accessories here, and that really begins with what's right here across his stomach, in fact, that we kind of alluded to. And that right here is his power inhibitor belt. So I think the story behind this was like Loki did something to Iceman's powers and made them just like really out of control, and that's why he needed to have this like power inhibitor belt thingy. Eventually they just kind of forgot about it, I think, as they tend to in all Marvel comics with things. And really, at this point, Iceman's also an Omega level mutant, so we know he's way powerful. So this is a gone thing of the past, but it's really fun. This is a nice thing that Diamond does with their figures, is they include nods to parts of the past like that. That's kind of forgotten from other toys. They did this with some of the stuff with Silver Centurion and Iron Man. We've seen it with the Vision figure as well. They really like to throw in those Easter eggs for the hardcore fans. And it's nice to see this, because I think this might be the very first time we got this belt here in toy form. And it is, in fact, removable, so we're going to do that right now. And it comes off very easy, and I will admit it actually fell off once or twice, and it goes back on just as easily as it came off. So you guys can see here, just a really simple little clasp you attach it to, and that's how you get it back on him. So while our Iceman might look naked, even though he's actually not, we have the first accessory besides his alternate head sculpt to talk about, and that would be another belt. So he's got himself another belt, and I believe it clasps the same way as that power inhibitor one did. So we're just going to put this around his waist, and we're going to see how we can attach this, hopefully. Okay, I was going to say hopefully as easy as the power inhibitor belt, but while I was saying that, it snapped into place. So this is the classic X-Men style belt, or X-Factor, whatever area you want to use this Iceman for with your toys. This is his smaller, more traditional belt, and it fits on him just fine, and it looks just as good on him as well, I would admit. So nice job there. Again, just like great attention to detail that you get from Diamond. The fact that you have an option for the belts is kind of odd, but with Iceman, there's not really a lot of accessories, so you got to go into the well to find some stuff here. And Diamond made a very smart choice in using the power inhibitor belt and his normal X-Man belt. And like I said, we have a different head here for him. You guys already saw it, but here it is just one more time. This is the alternate head sculpt for him, the one with the hair. I think the heads are really cool, and it's nice that they offered the choice for you guys out there to be able to decide which version of Iceman you want. But to me, the accessory I'm very excited to talk about is this one right over here. This is his base, and what a base this is. So this was really the thing that actually attracted me to this figure the most, was the fact that he has this just like amazing looking icy base here. I think that was like the first thing I knew about this figure when it was revealed by, I think it was the Whoosh who might have revealed this one. I don't quite remember who. But yeah, it had this like awesome looking base, and that's what we're getting here today. And it's, you know, a nice base as always. Like Diamond never does bad bases with anything here. This one looks really cool. It's nice and icy. And the nice thing about this too is it's also, you know, fairly useful for other toy lines as well. So I said already, these aren't really in scale with Marvel Legends. That's true. But the bases and things like that, yeah, you can definitely get away with using them here, and I would absolutely recommend it. So that's how this base looks here. And I think I want to go ahead and put our Iceman on it and see how he's going to look on it. And that's doable thanks to some of these little pegs that you'll find. Let's see if I can show it on camera. There's little pegs here, so you'll see in a moment here as I try to figure out the best way to put him on here. And the pegs are kind of on an angle. You know, we've got one here, one here. He's not entirely flat, but he's kind of on a bit of an angle. And I'm definitely curious to see how he's going to look once he's on this, if I can keep him on there, just because, yeah, it definitely is a little bit unusual to see him in this kind of style. All right, so it didn't really take much work at all, actually. I just did need to have my hands on camera, make it a little bit unruly for a moment or two. But yeah, he is very much on the base now, and that's how your Iceman's going to look. It adds a lot of height to him, that's for sure. You know, this display that I have here, there's not really a lot of space, you know, from here to here, so I don't like to show that off. But, you know, it definitely adds a little bit of verticality to him, which is really nice here. Like, this is definitely really cool, just seeing him in this style. And yeah, he's on there very stable, actually. Even with his loose ankles I was talking about, he's definitely holding himself up there pretty nicely with this. So it looks pretty cool, but there's still some more we can do to make this look even cooler. Wow, that's a pun I didn't realize I was saying until after I said it. Oh man, every time I say cool, take a drink. In addition to this really wonderful base, we have 3 additional hands. You can see one right here. I've got another one over here, and they're essentially just different ice and snow effects that your Iceman can use to blast with. So I'm going to start here with this smaller one, just to show you how easy, hopefully, this is. I do like it when it actually is as easy as I hope it is, but there you go. So that's one effect that's on his hand. It's a pretty cool looking effect also. So that's just him kind of like shooting out some ice right from his fingertips. And I have to admit to you guys, I hope this looks okay on camera. It's so hard to tell because he's so see-through. It's like I can't even tell what I'm actually focusing on. But I'm hoping you guys can see him a little bit better than I can here. So here's hoping that eventually this works out. If not, I'll take some photos. We'll figure it out later. But that's how that hand looks on him. It's a pretty small and light hand also. But what about the other hands that he's got? Because those are certainly bigger hand effects. Case in point, you'll see right now as I put this one on him, this is pretty huge, and he can't really even hold his hand up right now to show it. So that's where we come into the final accessory we have to talk about here, and the one that actually confused me the most when I first unboxed him. And that would be not one, but 2 of these bendy stands that Diamond includes sometimes with their figures. So normally, like, I've seen this in the past, and I thought you just stick it in the back of the toy to like hold it up or whatever, but I noticed that there was like no holes on Iceman, and plus he doesn't fly or anything like that, so I was very confused. And then I did some research, and that's when I realized that, oh, this actually fits into the base. So I didn't even know this at the time. But the base, as I mentioned, you know, has the holes for his feet, but it also has holes in the front that you could actually slip this in here. So that's what we're going to do right now. And I'm going to do it with both of these. And it'll definitely be a lot clearer once I actually do that, because, like I said, this guy is so transparent and so see-through. I can't even see what I'm doing half the time in this thing. So yeah, what you're going to do, and hope that he stays in place while you do it, because that weight of his hand is really dragging him down right now. So yeah, we just basically pop these into the 2 holes that are here located on the front. There we go. And on each of his icy effects, he actually has an additional hole that you could then pop this guy into. So the question is how we actually do that. I think it involves just a lot of fancy playing around to get it in the right spot, but there we go. That's one ice effect in his hand. And there we go. Now we got both ice effects on his hand. And I know I definitely feel like it's a little bit hard to see. If it's hard for me to see, it must be just as hard for you guys to see. But he has the power effects on his hand. And, you know, I was worried about how invasive these stands would look on the toy. And I will admit, it definitely is a little bit invasive here. But I also just don't realistically see any other way to get those power effects in his hand. And you really do want them, because it adds so much to the toy. I mean, it looks infinitely cooler when you do this to him. I mean, let's just zoom in a little bit and you can see what I'm talking about here. This just looks so much better to me when it's like this. So, you know, yeah, that is the price you're going to have to pay, unfortunately, for that, is if you want to pull this effect off, you do need to use the stands. I think it's worth it, though. Don't be too afraid. It doesn't look that bad at all. I was worried about how it was going to look, but no, I think it actually looks pretty nice. So that's our ice effects. Iceman's all ready to go here, but I want to do something else right now. Let's compare him to another fairly recent Marvel figure that also was pretty big on the elements. I want to bring in now the Human Torch. This one came out, I believe it was last year from Diamond Select, and let's see if I can do this, get these guys both in the shot together. I guess they're gonna have a little bit of a fight now. So he came out last year from Diamond Select, and I was definitely curious about these two figures side by side because I was like wondering, are they gonna be recycling parts? Since after all, you know, one is see-through, other one is also kind of see-through, so you know, it would have made sense to me, and I feel like I wouldn't have been too horribly offended if they did recycle parts. So that's what I kind of want to look at right now and determine how much, if any, pieces were recycled. And based on what I'm seeing now, it looks like they're both completely independent sculpts of each other, which is really good news, actually. You know, and you can see a little bit better right now here, both of them. They both look excellent side by side. I mean, I know they're not really meant to be paired up necessarily, but man, do they look good like this. So yeah, you know, as far as like parts being recycled, though, nothing. I mean, I really thought that even the body would be reused. Like, you know, you can see on the Human Torch, he has like those signature old-fashioned lines across his body to show that he's on fire, I guess. But no, the body types are actually both different. While the height might be pretty similar, the bodies are absolutely different pieces. The Human Torch is actually a lot more slender than this Iceman figure is. So yeah, top to bottom, they're actually both completely different. I did not expect that at all. I really was thinking these two guys are gonna come in here and just be like identical to each other, but they're not at all. So go figure. Way to go, Diamond. Way to absolutely subvert my expectations on that. That's really cool, and that's how also he's gonna look side by side with some of the other Diamond figures. And yeah, Iceman matches up just fine. He's not like any different size compared to anybody, so he looks excellent. And I gotta tell you, it's really cool having him side by side with these two guys, because I'm thinking just outside of, you know, what I do here, I have a lot of Mythic Legions, and I'd love to actually use these guys as, like, elementals to be in, like, photos and things like that, and it's really easy to do, because all you gotta do is just pop off the X-Man belt from Iceman, and likewise, you can also pop this off easily. This number 4 symbol in his chest, it actually is interchangeable, so if you just want to pop that out, you can, and then you've got really two kind of completely unidentifiable figures that you can use for just about any collection out there. So, final thoughts on this Iceman piece here. Again, I hope this wasn't too hard to look at, because yeah, he is very hard to shoot just because of how difficult he is to see through. And likewise too, even on this base, I feel like he might be a little bit difficult because, you know, he's at one angle, the base is at another, the ice hands are on a different level too, and focusing this thing can be a little difficult. But I will admit, for all the work you have to do with this figure, and it's not really that much actually, but for the minimal amount of work they have to do with this toy to get it to pose and do things like this, it looks pretty damn awesome. I mean, you know, I wasn't sure what to expect with the Iceman, and to be honest, initially, I didn't really want him, but then I saw the base, and the base just, like, blew me away. And, you know, again, looking at this figure, it's like, okay, it's cool, it's just whatever, clear blue plastic. I didn't realize it actually had two tones of color in there. I didn't realize it was blue and white. I didn't realize there was so much going on with the base. I didn't realize there was so much going on with the hands. You know, what's nice about it is it really does just kind of feel like a toy, in the best way possible. Like, this is kind of what I want. I want something that feels a little bit playable, but also feels like a collectible. And I think Diamond really pulled that off here. So yeah, absolutely, this is a wonderful piece. I think it looks so cool, and I think it's gonna really stand out amongst your collection as well if you're doing the X-Men, or even if you're not. Just what a great looking toy. So yeah, absolutely recommend this piece. And if you want to pick up this Iceman for yourself, go ahead and check out my description for this video below. You'll find links to a few different places where you can pick up this Iceman and anything else from Diamond and their Marvel Select line. That's our look at Iceman from the Marvel Select series by Diamond Select. What a cool looking figure, you guys. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Oh, hey, and one last thing. Stay cool this summer. Okay, final ice pun, we're done. Goodbye.